Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into a topic that is just profoundly disorienting. We're going to be decoding true narcissism.
Right, and we need to set the context right away here.
We really do. We're intentionally moving past the casual use of that term, the person who takes too many selfies or brags a bit too much.
Yeah, that's not what this is about.
No.
Yeah.
We're focusing on individuals who, according to the psychological frameworks in our sources, truly, well, they fit the bill. They demonstrate a destructive personality pattern that checks nearly every single one of the diagnostic criteria.
And if you, the learner, are joining us today because you're maybe navigating a current relationship or you're processing a really painful exit from one, or you're just trying to make sense of some completely bewildering behavior, our goal is to cut through that fog. The fundamental mission of this deep dive, really, is to help you feel sane again. We're looking at a series of behaviors. We've actually broken them down into 12 major disorienting realities that just defy conventional, empathetic, human logic.
And the sources are so unified on this point. The confusion you feel is real. Empathetic people, they expect a certain baseline of humanity,
Reciprocity, a moral compass.
Exactly, even under stress. And when you're dealing with true destructive narcissism, those expectations are just consistently violated by these really specific, counterintuitive actions.
Okay, so the core paradox we're really tackling is this. Why do they behave in ways that seem so utterly senseless and frankly cruel to an empathetic person? Why does it feel like they're operating by a completely different set of emotional laws?
Well, the sources suggest that the answer isn't that they are deeply cruel in the way a sociopath might be, but that they're just disconnected from the emotional reality that, binds most people together.
So their actions are just about protecting themselves.
Protecting their very fragile self-concept and securing what the literature calls supply. It makes empathetic considerations totally irrelevant to them. And understanding that disconnect, that's really the first step toward any kind of clarity.
Let's unpack this then. We'll start with part one, the deceptive cycles. Because this is where all the confusion starts. They give you just enough hope, just a glimpse of goodness,
right,
to keep you trapped in the pattern. We're calling this the phenomenon of the broken watch, and that instant, impossible reset.
A very good way to put it.
So the first, and I think maybe the most psychologically confusing experience, is what our sources call the illusion of greatness.
Yeah.
Or you could say conditional kindness.
Yes.
So you've been through a chaotic period. I mean, consistent pain, emotional unavailability, maybe betrayal, gaslighting. The foundation of the relationship is just shaky.
At best. Yeah.
And then completely out of the blue, they're suddenly amazing.
The shift it's startling. They can walk in the door or reach out, and they are just utterly kind, charming, attentive, fully engaged.
Right. They might be sweet, playful. I've seen sources describe them offering genuinely insightful conversation. In that one moment, they're everything you fell for in the first place.
Everything you always hoped the relationship could be.
Yeah, and that's when your brain just clicks and you think, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the real them. The capable, loving person is still in there.
If I can just recreate this one moment.
Or make sure these conditions continue, I'll have the relationship I always dreamed of. And that brief period of, functional joy is so profoundly dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it just overwrites all the pain that came before it.
It's incredibly deceptive, and the sources are really clear about the mechanism here. This behavior is, it's fundamentally conditional.
What do you mean by conditional?
It typically only happens when the narcissist's core needs have been completely met, when they feel validated, adored, when their sense of superiority is totally unchallenged.
So when they have their supply?
Exactly. When their internal emotional gas tank is full and every single box is being ticked for them, that's when they have the emotional capital to be delightful and agreeable.
So it's not actually an expression of health or commitment to the partnership. It's just a pleasant byproduct of them feeling completely satisfied.
Precisely. The crucial distinction our sources make over and over is that this kindness is not altruistic. It's just a reflection of their current internal state. The real danger is who they are when they're trying to get their needs met.
When their supply is low.
Or when they feel challenged or their mask is threatened. That's when the manipulation and the cruelty come out, and it often just instantly extinguishes that conditional kindness.
This leads us right into a very specific analogy that the sources use. I think it captures this feeling of intermittent hope so well. It's the broken watch analogy.
The broken watch is such a powerful metaphor for this dynamic. It's fundamentally broken, right? It's inaccurate almost all of the time. It causes chaos, missed appointments, chronic instability. But for 2 brief, fleeting moments a day, it is absolutely 100% correct.
And the mistake is putting way too much weight on those two correct moments.
Exactly. The most dangerous mistake the empathetic person makes is mistaking those couple of functional moments. You know, a few minutes of kindness, a day of peace, a single generous act for proof of a truly working relationship.
You think the watch is fixed?
You do.
Yeah.
But that brief kindness isn't evidence of their fundamental goodness or the long-term viability of the partnership. It's just the moment the broken watch happens to align with reality. The sources are really urging you, the listener, to understand that you deserve to be loved and considered and seen, not just in those 2 fleeting moments.
But in every other minute of the day as well.
Yes.
And there's a psychological term for why we cling to those brief good moments, right? It's intermittent reinforcement.
That's a key insight. It really is. Intermittent reinforcement is, it's recognized as the most powerful way to condition behavior. In humans and animals, it doesn't matter.
How does it work? Exactly.
Well, when a reward, in this case, the conditional kindness, that good moment, is given unpredictably, it creates this deeply addictive psychological loop. If the goodness came every single day, you might, take it for granted. If the chaos came every single day, you would leave immediately.
But because the kindness is unpredictable,
Right.
and it only comes after these periods of pain, it tricks the brain.
It creates hope. It makes the victim believe, okay, if I just endure this round of chaos, the reward will come. It has to. The brain is constantly scanning for the next positive hit, which makes it incredibly hard to quit the relationship.
Even when the overall experience is just overwhelmingly negative.
That conditional kindness isn't a gift. It's a structural tool of control.
That makes so much sense. And it ties directly into our next disorienting reality, which is the impossible speed of moving on.
Let's do that contrast test again. Imagine for a second that you are the one who committed some deep betrayal. Say a financial fraud against a family member or emotional infidelity against your partner. How long would it take you to move past that internally?
Oh, ages.
Yeah.
You'd be grappling with, self-forgiveness, acute shame, crippling guilt, anxiety. That emotional debt is heavy. It takes a long time to reconcile.
You'd be doing the work, you'd be making amends, trying to make sure the person you hurt felt truly seen in their pain.
Right. Now contrast that with the narcissist.
They move on, according to the sources, with this impossible speed and ease. They are just fundamentally unburdened by the act. Many will never offer a genuine apology and just expect the victim to instantly get over it.
And even if they do offer some kind of grand gesture or an apology, how can you tell the difference if you know it's not genuine remorse?
The sources are very clear on this. A genuinely remorseful person focuses on the injury they caused you. They accept your pain as legitimate, and they're willing to sit with your discomfort for as long as it takes.
With a transactional apology.
A transactional apology, which is what a narcissist often offers, focuses on the cost to them. It sounds like, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry, but can we just move on now? This is draining me.
It's just a quick fix to get things back to the status quo, to get their supply line running again.
Absolutely. They want you to move on as quickly as possible because they have already moved on. For them, there was nothing significant to move on from. The minute you continue to have feelings about what they did, they become incredibly impatient, frustrated, or even angry.
Right. Asking, why are we still talking about this? I said, I was sorry. What more do you want?
And suddenly you, the victim, who is still reeling from the betrayal, you get labeled as bitter or controlling or unforgiving just for having perfectly normal human feelings after being violated.
And that shift, that's what the sources call the gaslighting aftermath. It's crushing.
And that is the key takeaway here. You must never let their quick recovery gaslight you into minimizing how severe the act was. The narcissist's ease of moving on has absolutely nothing to do with the scale of the offense.
It's about their lack of empathy.
It's entirely about their absence of empathy and compassion. They just don't have that internal mechanism for self-admonishment or guilt that most people do. They're worried about the loss of convenience, control, or supply, the cost to themselves, not the injury to you.
But do the sources say they feel zero guilt, or are they just suppressing it really well?
That is a critical question. And the evidence, according to the studies cited in the material, is in the repeat behavior and in the indifference they show when you confront them with your pain. A person suppressing guilt, they eventually break down. They try to change the pattern. A narcissist, however, shows this cold, calculating indifference to the emotional damage and often feels entitled to do it again. Their quick reset proves there was no internal consequence. They just don't carry the weight.
They just hit the restart button because for them, the game is over the second they want it to be. That emotional logic flip. It sets us up perfectly for part 2, weaponizing virtue and deflecting accountability.
This is where it gets really cruel.
Because they start using your best qualities as ammunition. Point 3 is where the deepest betrayal really lies. Weaponizing empathy, the ticket to bad behavior.
It's a tragic irony, isn't it, that your greatest strengths, your capacity to understand, to forgive, to see the good in people, is the very thing the narcissist exploits to keep abusing you.
The sources say that empathy is often the horse that forgiveness rides in on.
It is. When we see bad behavior, we naturally look for context. You might understand the narcissist's difficult childhood, their history of abandonment, all the hardships they've been through.
And that understanding breeds sympathy.
Sometimes pity. And you start to justify their present actions by thinking, well, they've had it so hard, they're acting out of trauma, not malice. They can't help it.
And that sympathetic understanding just creates this perpetual cycle of allowances and forgiveness for whatever they do today. You start to believe that because you're the one who understands their pain, you're the one who has to stay and endure it.
It becomes a moral obligation in your mind. And the narcissist reinforces this. If you try to leave, they'll say things like, how could you abandon me? You know my trauma. You know what I've been through. You're the only person who understands.
But here's the cruelest irony, the sources point out.
Mm-hmm.
The person who gives the most sacrifice, the most compassion, the most empathy, is usually the one the narcissist treats the absolute worst. Why is that?
Because for the narcissist, your empathy isn't seen as this beautiful, loving, reciprocal quality.
The weakness.
It's seen as a predictable, exploitable weakness. And this is where it gets interesting. They see it as their perpetual get-out-of-jail-free card.
So they budget for it. They rely on it being there.
Exactly. They expect forgiveness because they know you're empathetic. They rely on that quality every single time they choose to prioritize their own needs in a disrespectful, manipulative, or harmful way. Their internal model of the relationship is based on the certainty that you will just absorb the consequence because you understand them.
And that frees them from any need to regulate their own behavior.
Completely. And that structural entitlement, that expectation of a free pass, leads directly into our fourth point. Hurting you and then blaming you.
This is the core logic flip that makes every single conflict feel like you've stepped into an alternate dimension where up is down.
This is the essence of psychological self-preservation for the narcissist. They are absolute masters of externalizing blame. They can cause tremendous verifiable harm and then turn around and blame you for the pain you're feeling as a result.
So they never have to face the fact that they're the problem.
Never. Let's use some clear examples from the sources to make this really concrete for the listener.
Okay.
Take the classic example of infidelity. The cheating spouse, instead of accepting responsibility, completely reverses the narrative. They'll claim their infidelity was forced on them.
Right. If you were more physically attentive or if you were less stressed and more fun,
I wouldn't have had to seek validation elsewhere. The fault lies entirely in your perceived inadequacy.
or the liar who defends their deception by saying they were protecting you.
You get so upset when I tell you the truth, so I have to lie to you. This is your fault for having such volatile reactions. The issue is never their behavior. It's always your natural, appropriate reaction to their behavior.
And this all stems from what the sources call a shocking sense of entitlement.
It is shocking. In their mind, they are entitled to behave however they choose without limits. Any negative feeling you have, any boundary you set, any emotional response, no matter how legitimate, it has to be your fault because they cannot be flawed.
And what happens when you finally try to call them out on it?
They meet any attempt to hold them to account with pure indignation, if not absolute outrage. They have this limitless capacity to feel indignant when their actions are questioned, but zero capacity to feel genuine remorse for causing the injury.
So the outrage is a defense mechanism.
It's a powerful one that completely derails the conversation. It ensures the focus shifts right back to your supposed aggression or lack of respect. It's a strategic emotional outburst designed to shut down accountability entirely.
Wow. Okay, moving on to point 5. This one is maybe the most painful form of betrayal because it targets the very foundation of intimacy. It's using disclosures as ammunition.
This is a devastating realization for people. Narcissists will quickly and easily take private disclosures, secrets, vulnerabilities, past traumas that you shared in moments of trust, and they will weaponize them. They breach that confidence ruthlessly the moment it gives them an advantage.
That sounds less like a fight and more like psychological warfare.
It is entirely strategic. It's a tactic for manipulating, dominating, controlling, and just outright vilifying you. And crucially, they deploy it with maximum force when their own flaws are exposed or when their carefully constructed mask is slipping.
So the second their facade cracks and they feel exposed, they just grab the nearest weapon, your most vulnerable spot, and use it to distract from their own mistake.
It shifts the blame instantly. It shifts responsibility away from them and onto you, and it reinforces their need for power and control. It proves they never saw those disclosures as moments of intimacy.
They saw them as intelligence.
Intelligence to be filed away and leveraged later when they needed to win a fight or control the narrative. The cruelty is in the timing and in the target.
The knowledge that your most private pain has just been cataloged for future use is shattering. That kind of cruelty leads us right into the illogical reality they build to maintain their facade. Which brings us to part 3, illogical excuses and distorted reality.
Yes, this is where things get truly bizarre.
Okay, let's talk about point 6. Unbelievable excuses when caught. This is the moment when factual reality should be undeniable, but the narcissist just creates a whole new fantastical universe to escape any consequence.
Imagine the scene. You have clear as day proof. Maybe you found unauthorized credit card charges or texts proving a secret relationship.
Undeniable evidence.
Right. A rational, emotionally healthy person would be in crisis. They'd be remorseful, trying to explain the painful truth. But the narcissist doesn't do that.
So what's their first move?
Misdirection. It's always misdirection, designed to induce cognitive dissonance. They immediately shift the focus from the offense to the act of discovery.
So instead of defending the cheating,
they attack your character. What were you doing spying on my phone? That's my private life. You violated my trust. How dare you treat me like a criminal?
and before you know it, you're the one on the defensive. You're defending yourself for being suspicious or violating their privacy instead of addressing the actual betrayal.
They've successfully muddied the waters, and their explanation of events defies all conventional logic. Our sources contrast this behavior with a core logical principle, Occam's razor.
Which says the simplest explanation is usually the right one.
Exactly. If you found evidence of cheating, the simplest explanation is, I found evidence of you cheating, therefore you cheated. But the narcissist offers the complete opposite of Occam's razor.
They offer the most complex, ridiculous, insane version of events.
One that somehow, improbably, leads to them being completely innocent or even the victim, while you, the accuser, become the perpetrator of all the chaos. It's a narrative so fantastical it requires you to just suspend all disbelief and disregard the evidence in front of your face.
Can you give us a detailed example just to show how absurd this can get?
Sure, let's take that financial fraud scenario. You confront them with a bank statement showing a large, unauthorized wire transfer. The simplest explanation is they stole the money. Their excuse, however, might be something like,
Uh-oh.
that wire transfer was actually a very complex, multi-stage test orchestrated by my old boss to see if I was worthy of a huge new consulting project. If you hadn't brought it up, the funds would have been returned automatically next week. Now you've ruined the whole deal and cost us $1 million. I can't believe you're so distrustful.
Wow. So they create an elaborate drama where there's some kind of secret agent and you're the idiot who blew their cover.
Yes, they escalate the complexity to make accountability impossible. And this is why the sources have labeled this phenomenon the excuses version of Murphy's Law.
The Murphy's Law of excuses. If an excuse can possibly be made, even one that seems impossible, like blaming a cat for sending a text, it will be made.
And the key realization for you, the listener, is that the wildness of the excuse isn't an indicator of how complex the reality must be. It's an indicator of the profound level of defensive denial and entitlement of the person you are dealing with.
The wilder the excuse, the clearer the warning sign.
Mm-hmm.
That logic failure leads us to point 7. Perpetual and deliberate misunderstanding. This is like the psychological wallpaper of the relationship, that constant, frustrating feeling of being misjudged and misrepresented.
If you feel like you are constantly battling to have your essence, your meaning, or your motives understood when you are near a destructive narcissist, trust that feeling.
But the sources say it's deliberate. on purpose.
Our sources confirm that this is likely deliberate and done on purpose because it serves a function for them. It's not just clumsiness.
But I struggle with that idea. Why would you intentionally misrepresent the person you claim to love?
Because the narcissist isn't seeing the actual person. They're looking at you through a very distorted lens. They're fundamentally unable to see the real you because if they did, it would challenge their own constructed reality.
And this inability to see you clearly, it stems from projection.
Yes, from a crucial, pervasive psychological defense mechanism, projection. Let's really dig into this because this is where the puzzle pieces start to fit together.
Okay.
Projection is an unconscious defense where a person takes their own unwanted thoughts, feelings, and impulses, the things they can't tolerate about themselves, and attributes them to someone else. The narcissist cannot tolerate their own deep-seated shame, inadequacy, or anger.
So instead of owning those unacceptable qualities, they mentally, evacuate them
Yeah.
and relocate them onto their partner.
Exactly. They are busy projecting onto you everything they cannot see, own, or accept about themselves. They can't tolerate being selfish, so you get labeled selfish. They can't tolerate being angry, so you're the aggressive one. They can't tolerate being emotionally unavailable, so you're the one who's needy.
So they don't even see their actual partner. They just see a convenient dumping ground for all their own negative traits. The argument is never about you.
It's never about you. It's about the qualities the narcissist refuses to integrate. And that projection is why the relationship is so painful and frustrating. You're constantly fighting against this phantom version of yourself.
A version that only exists to hold their baggage.
Precisely. You are being perpetually misjudged because they are projecting their own judgment, their self-loathing, and their own failures onto you. And this maintains their internal superiority complex all at your expense.
That's structural reality.
Yeah.
It explains why the relationship feels like a constant battle against reality itself. And that leads us seamlessly into part 4, which deals with the ultimate emotional disconnect, the moments when the relationship is put to the greatest test.
Yeah, this part is tough.
Point 8 is, I think, arguably the most heartbreaking realization for any victim because it strikes at the core assumption of what a partnership is, sinking, and they let you drown.
This is the moment that shatters everything. The victim might have endured years of conditional kindness and blame shifting, but there's always this lingering, deeply held belief.
If I was truly in trouble, if I was having my worst day, this person who has shared my life, who says they love me, they'd be there for me. Of course they would.
We have history. We hold on to that shared history, the years, the sacrifices, believing that when the chips are truly down, they will finally behave like I would behave. We just assume that fundamental human commitment exists.
And the ultimate test comes when life goes truly wrong.
We're talking about severe crises here. A major financial collapse, a terrifying health diagnosis, the loss of a parent, a complete breakdown in mental health. You expect that life raft. And the crushing, mind-bending realization is the narcissist is not there.
They stand by with indifference.
With indifference or with cold, self-serving excuses, they watch you go underwater. They might even complain that your crisis is inconveniencing them.
And you can't unknow that.
You cannot unknow it. That event is a moment of total, definitive devastation. It forces you to understand that you have been operating under the false assumption that you are with someone who operates according to the same set of emotional, reciprocal laws that govern decent people.
So the fundamental mistake is believing you're playing by the same rules.
Exactly. They just don't have the capacity for true relational pair. The sources are unsparing on this, describing the narcissist as effectively an alien in terms of emotional connection. The ability to abandon you in a moment of existential crisis signifies that their emotional wiring is dedicated only to self-preservation.
Their inability to prioritize your suffering just proves the lack of any genuine attachment.
And finding that hard to wrap your head around is not a failing on your part. It's a sign of your own healthy character. Now, this moves us to point 9. Withholding behavior. This is the silent, pervasive, day-to-day version of that disconnect.
Right, the small cuts.
It's one of the most frustrating and often subtle forms of abuse. Empathetic people, they expect those they love to be kind and affirming. And while the narcissist might be great at performing kindness for the outside world, the consistent experience of the victim over time tells a very different story.
So what are they withholding that's so damaging?
The basic human necessities that validate our existence. Approval, genuine praise, validation, acceptance, any acknowledgement of the good things happening in your life.
So if you get a promotion, they minimize it.
Anyone could have done that. If you seek comfort after a tough day, they deny it, or they just redirect the conversation to their own problems. If you're looking for acceptance, it's always conditional. always fleeting.
And why is that their go-to tactic? Is it just malice, or is it about power?
It serves both. It's a calculated method of control. By chronically denying you affirmation, they create the state of perpetual need in you. You keep trying harder, giving more, hoping to finally earn that elusive approval.
Which ensures they remain the center of your universe.
And continues their supply. It also proves a fundamental truth about their character. Good, decent people who genuinely care do not chronically withhold affirmation and praise. The fact that the narcissist does this over time proves, despite any pretense, that they are not a good, decent, loving person within the partnership. The withholding is the evidence.
Now for point 10, which tackles another major emotional misinterpretation. This is often confused with remorse. It's tears that are over you, not for you.
Ah, yes. When the victim finally draws a hard line, threatens to leave, or actually leaves, the narcissist can exhibit intense emotion. They might cry, grovel, panic.
And that can be really confusing. You think, see, they do care. They're feeling pain over what they did. We have the same emotional depth.
But the sources caution us that while the tears might be physically real, we have to look at the source of the pain.
Okay.
And the sources are absolutely clear. The tears are for themselves. They're in distress because they're feeling a loss, specifically the loss of their supply, their control, the convenience you provided. They are crying because they are hurting.
So their pain is purely self-centered.
Purely. Because to them, their own discomfort is the most important immediate crisis in the world. A genuinely remorseful person's pain is rooted in guilt and self-loathing for having hurt someone else. We feel bad because of the injury we inflicted.
But the narcissist's pain
Is rooted in the realization that the situation has cost them something. It's pain over a consequence, not pain over an injury they inflicted on you.
That distinction is so vital for moving on. To stop confusing tears that are over the situation with tears that are genuinely for you.
It's the most vital distinction. And that fundamental lack of genuine connection brings us to our final section, which deals with the inevitable conclusion of this personality pattern. The final destructive maneuvers.
All right, part 5. The final discard and synthesis. Point 11 reveals a truly strategic and isolating move. Alignment with those who have hurt you.
This often happens right when you're trying to establish boundaries or leave the relationship, and the narcissist is scrambling to control the narrative. Their core objective is to ensure you are isolated, alone, and completely convinced that you are the problem.
And to do that, they align themselves with people they know have hurt you.
Terribly. They know full well these people have hurt you. They'll suddenly become best friends with your estranged family member or partner up with a known antagonist.
It's a calculated betrayal.
It is. This alignment isn't casual. It's a strategic move to validate their version of events, that you are volatile or crazy or impossible. By getting validation from people who already dislike you, they secure an echo chamber and they compromise your remaining support structure.
And the sources say this is a definitive moment of clarity.
It should be. That specific alignment, the deliberate choice to cozy up to your antagonist, should be all the information you need to understand their true destructive nature. It proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are not concerned with your best interests. They're only concerned with maintaining power and making sure you're destabilized.
And this feeds right into the final, disorienting realization, point 12, how quickly and easily they discard you. This is what's often called exit gaslighting.
And it's devastating because it attempts to erase your entire history. After years, maybe decades of a shared life, you're left reeling when the narcissist just severs all connection. They move on to a new life, a new relationship at lightning speed, acting as if you never existed.
And any communication after the breakup is just an inconvenience to them.
Unless you still provide supply.
Which would look like what? Drama?
Drama, adoration, pity. If you're still texting them, begging for them back, complaining, offering compliments, they might keep the line open for an ego boost. That is the only condition for continued contact.
But the moment you refuse to be supply, the moment you set a firm boundary or go no contact,
you're instantly, often ruthlessly discarded. The narcissistic injury from that loss of control triggers a sudden, cold termination of the connection. The speed of that discard is the shocking part, and that's the mechanism of the exit gaslighting.
the devastating effect is the feeling that the entire relationship, all the years, the shared memories, the promises, it was all a hallucination. It feels like it counted for nothing.
And that is the psychological tool. The relationship, in the way you perceived it as this mutually supportive partnership, it wasn't real in their mind, it was transactional. But we have to reiterate this crucial reassurance from the sources. Your love was real. Your ability to love them, your commitment, your feelings, those were real and valid and authentic.
And that brings us to the most important, but maybe most devastating, core conclusion from all the sources. The truth you have to surrender to for sanity.
People with a destructive narcissist personality pattern do not change.
Not in the context of the relationship.
Not there, no. Because they lack the capacity for self-reflection and the true, enduring empathy that is necessary for change. You cannot love them into health. You cannot argue them into logic. You cannot sacrifice your way into earning their compassion. The moment of sanity begins when you surrender the hope that they will suddenly start operating by the same emotional laws as you.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, who has just processed this profound and disorienting reality?
It means accepting a very uncomfortable truth.
The relationship may not have been real in the reciprocal way you thought, but your capacity to love, your authenticity, the feelings you had, those were absolutely fundamentally real.
The first and most powerful step toward reclaiming your sanity is to just surrender to the reality and the truth of the situation. You have to accept that this person is not going to suddenly start operating in your best interest. It's not on their radar. You have to stop trying to make sense of the senseless.
If they let you drown when the chips were down, if they weaponized your kindness, if they consistently blamed you for their failures, that is all the information you need. And the beautiful realization we want to leave you with, drawn from the deepest insights of our sources, is that the immense, patient, empathetic energy that you gave them,
That capacity for kindness and enduring hope.
it is still yours.
Yeah.
No one can steal that inherent quality from you.
It is never too late, regardless of the season of life you're in, to take that genuine, expansive love and point it in a direction that truly deserves it, starting with yourself. It's time to take that love and allow it to blossom into something beautiful, directed towards your own healing, your own boundaries, and toward future relationships that are truly reciprocal and life-affirming.
And here is a final provocative thought for you to mull over. If the ultimate goal of the destructive narcissist is control and the erasure of your reality, what is the single most defiant, reality-affirming act you can perform right now to take back ownership of your own story? What is the one truth about your experience that they absolutely deny, and how can you choose to believe it anyway? We'll leave you with that. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.